This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1238. It's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, it's our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
And you guys are in the tundras, aren't you? It's like cold up where you are. This is like the last gasp of winter, I feel like. Down here, it was a lovely, sunny 78 degrees yesterday. We were outside in the water, but I've empathy for you guys and your coldness.
It's actually delightful out now, though we did have a couple days of snow, which a 3-day snow window is about where you want it. Because it's on the spectrum of, do I actually need to shovel the driveway or not? You know, like more than 3 days, you got to be out there with the shovel. 3 days, like, it's probably going to melt almost tomorrow, so I'm not going out there to do it. You know,
I'm a 3-day anything cold trips. Like if I go up north during the winter, which we like to do, go to New York at Christmas time, go skiing, 3 days. That's it. Yeah. After 3 days, I got it. After that, I'm just cold. And I want to go back to 70. So
what is your guys' skiing take? Because I have a lot of friends this year. They're doing ski trips, right? And we've kind of got the soft invite. Hey, you guys should come. And I have pretty strong feelings about skiing and snowboarding.
Why?
Well, in high school, I went twice, and that's the only times I've went. And one, I got a concussion the first run. And two, my buddy dislocated his shoulder. And it just seems like there's a lot of injuries, a lot of driving, a lot of like gear you got to be accountable to.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. And I don't like having to keep track of a lot of things. I frequently lose my phone, my keys, my wallet. It happens all the time. I lose things. Snowboarding, it just seems all kinds of gear. There's boots and clamps and poles. They got the little straps, but still, if I'm going in to eat somewhere, then there's like the tags for the lift thing. If I'm going in and I'm like, because here's what I learned during snow days. If you walked into my garage at any point, it was just a pile of different people's stuff that were coming in and out of my house, right? Everyone just sheds their layers and their boots and their gloves and just piles all over the garage. That would seem like a nightmare for me with skiing. I think I'm out on the whole thing. I just think I'm a hard no on winter vacations.
Really? See, I think because being a Floridian, even though my parents, we lived very modestly growing up, we would always do a winter vacation. We would go skiing. I mean, we always went to Breckenridge, Colorado. Earlier in like when I was younger, and money was a little tighter, we would drive up to North Carolina. We'd ski near Boone, North Carolina, and those mountains. And then when they got a little bit more money, we'd start going out to Colorado every year. But here's the problem. I started going when all there was skiing. And snowboarding became super cool like a few years after I learned how to ski. And I didn't jump on the first wave of it. And then now I'm the guy who's the dork on skis and all my friends are on snowboards out looking all cool. And I'm like, I don't know how to snowboard.
What happened to those ski skates that came out for a while? They were trying to make those a thing. They were like very short. Somebody was trying to popularize these at one point. They were like the rollerblades of skiing. They were very short skis, and I don't think you use poles. I think it was just kind of you know what I'm saying? Like
I guess.
Like a roller.
I think this sounds like something you made up.
No. Somebody tried to make these a thing, and they didn't catch on.
But why would you just do shorter skis? Skis are the length they are for a reason, to glide over the snow. If they're shorter, you're just going to go into the snow.
Because I think for doing tricks and stuff, I think, you know. But my whole point is this. It's an activity that, when you go in for lunch, okay, here's my whole thing. Even with snow days, all right, when you go in for lunch and your plan is like, oh, we're just going to eat, then we're going to be right back out here having fun. And then you look at that pile of wet, cold clothes in the garage and you're like, I got to put all that. I think I'm just done for the day. I think we're good. Like, I feel like on a ski trip, I would come in for lunch and be like, nah, guys, this is going to be quite the production. I think I'm just going to hang by the fire and, chill out here.
I've heard about families that like go to Disney and they like, they're there they want to maximize their day. And so they're there at like 6:30 in the morning, they're rope dropping, they're, hitting it hard. And then, they want to stay till like midnight, but they have kids usually. So I just recently learned that a normal thing for tourists is to go to Disney and then midday go back to your hotel for a nap and then go back to Disney. And I was like, I would never go back. I would just be like, that was a great 4 hours we just had. I'm relaxed now. Let's enjoy the hotel. You know what I mean? I'm with you, Jesse.
That's why I love the Spanish, because siestas are big
That's why
there.
you love the Spanish. I knew you did. I didn't know why.
Hey, one of these snow days, I got invited to a Spanish neighbor's house, and they had paella. Never had it before.
Ooh.
Unbelievable.
Ooh.
They had a whole paella
Did they have the huge
Yes,
like
in the
dish and
garage.
everybody ate out of it? Oh,
in the
yeah.
garage. They had the giant paella thing, and a paella,
So
cooking
when you're talking
contraption.
about you like the Spanish, you're talking about from Spain, because that's from Spain.
I support any napping culture. So
I think the siesta culture is primarily Latin America, specifically
it's
Mexico.
Spain
No,
too.
it
I
feels
have a
European.
friend.
Spain too? Is it Spain too?
I have a
All
friend who was a teacher for a year in Spain,
right. Okay.
and even teachers got a nap, and it was quite the thing. And,
I can't nap. You're nappers? I can't nap.
Oh, I could nap. I could nap.
No.
anytime.
My problem is I can't like nap in a way that then you go back to work. Like if I'm so tired I need to sleep in the middle of the day, like after church,
Yeah.
I'm waking up and it's dark. Like I can't.
You're
like,
napping too long. That's the
That's
thing.
the problem. I can't like do a 4-hour nap or no nap at all.
Well,
I
there's a
can't.
thing called an alarm. You should consider it.
Why would you set alarms if you're just on a relaxing afternoon? I don't have anything else to do. I'll just keep sleeping.
If you got to get back up and do things, you set an alarm.
Yeah.
Well, then why would I fall asleep if I have things to do?
Oh my god.
Have you guys heard of an astronaut nap?
No.
Is that like the 10-minute
thing?
naps?
No, it's like 20. I just learned about this. You know who was talking about it, and this is how I
Astronauts?
went down.
An
No,
astronaut.
the weekend,
Oh.
the artist. He said that he's a big thing into astronaut naps, and I thought he was making it up because the weekend, let's face it, it's kind of gone off the rails here. You know, like I would take a lot of what he says with a grain of salt. We just don't know what trajectory that guy's on right now. But he said he's gotten into astronaut nap because it's 26 minutes, no more, no less, and it's like NASA has taught astronauts how to fall asleep within 6 minutes. Sleep for 26 minutes, right? So it's 32 total, 6 to fall asleep. And you wake up and it's a total recharge of the brain. I didn't really dig deep into the methodology of what the weekend, why he went down this rabbit hole. But if you Google astronaut nap, he's not lying. He didn't make it up. There's a whole article on NASA, on the NASA website about this. Okay.
They're up there just napping, eating ice cream left and right. I mean, like, this is
The
a pretty
dream
good
job.
life they have up there. Yeah.
I got it. Here's a curious thing. Why aren't they napping longer? What are you doing up there? Like once you're up there,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh, we made it. You know, it's a long ride home.
Float
So-
around for a couple of days.
Yeah,
See,
you
it
can't
seems
get
like-
fired in space. Like, what are they going to do? Make you come home? Like, you can just chill up there.
At some point, you did the experiments. You know, when you hear these astronauts up at the International Space Station for like a year, you know, or like 3 years sometimes, or however long, like it's like some random cosmonaut who they left up there for a while, and we sent a couple, and they just got to hang out for like a year and a half up there. What are they doing every day? I mean, I understand they got some research here and there, but that's a long time for a year. Occasional maintenance, maybe spacewalk once a week, and just give the old thing a tune up.
I'm not going to recommend it again, but For All Mankind answers this question for you
What are they
because
doing all day?
they're living up there on a lunar base. They're bored and then going crazy. That's what's going
So
on.
why are they only napping for 26 minutes? That's the question.
Yeah, kill some time is what we're saying.
Yeah, why are you waking them up? Let them just sleep this thing off. I mean,
How do you fall
Anyway.
asleep in 6 minutes? That's the thing. Is like I think that's the other part of the nap issue for me is like I could be tired, lay down. I'm not falling asleep right away. So like it could be 30, 45 minutes before I'm actually out and then I got to get right back up. It's like,
well, he's on the cover of Complex right now, and he cites a study from NASA where he discusses this in depth. From what I can tell in the coverage of this cover story, it seems to be the entirety of the focus. I think he has some more music or film projects coming out, but they seem mostly interested in these astronauts.
he has a new album that just came out. That's I'm sure what the cover story is attached to.
he also has a movie.
They took it
coming
a
out.
different. They took it a different angle. Like I bet if you Google The Weeknd right now, the lead is the most interesting thing we got in this interview was the nap thing. Like that's what I'm taking from this Complex cover.
I think
story.
the interviewer was just really tired and is like, "Tell me more about these naps and how I can implement them."
Well, it's okay. Let's be real. It's probably the interviewer's like, "Oh my goodness, you just released a chart-topping album. You have a new movie. How do you juggle all these projects? You've got to be the busiest man in entertainment. Well, let me
Naps.
tell you the secret, the astronaut nap.
Well, okay, hold on. This is on complex.com. This is how they're promoting their new cover story with The Weeknd.
Right.
It's literally about astronaut naps. I haven't read the cover story. Maybe I will now because no shade on The Weeknd or Complex. He's just not someone that interests me to dive into a 5,000 word piece with. But this whole napping thing seems pretty revolutionary. I would have not even known about this concept had they not dedicated the entire cover story of the magazine to it.
Think about it. Your lunch hour, you get 30 minutes to go to Taco Bell and back. You got 30 minutes to sleep it off. Done.
Mm-hmm.
And you're back.
All I need is 26, you know?
So you got 34 of Taco Bell, 26 of napping.
I mean, it's really the perfect system. I don't think NASA developed it specifically for Taco Bell, but we can't rule that out.
Maybe what you do is you go get the Taco Bell, then sleep for 26 minutes, wake up with like 10 left, eat the Taco Bell. You're back at it.
Can we go ahead and get The Weeknd on the pod and only ask him exclusively about napping?
It seems like he'd be down.
I mean,
Yeah.
It seems like most of the press is kind of circling that right now. You know, I don't know what that says about the quality of the album, but
it was pretty good. It's if you like Super Bowl pop hit, mega hit Weekend, not for you.
Yeah.
If you like Trilogy and the stuff he was doing with OVO before he got huge,
yeah,
you'll like it. It's that vibe a lot. And no hits. It's just that kind of early vibe, which is kind of what people, when he became Super Bowl Weekend, lamented. Like, where's the Weekend? That was cool. But I heard this is his last album as The Weeknd. Like, he made an announcement. This is it. The Weeknd is done with this album. And he'll maybe continue to make music or other projects, but it'll be under his given name, not The Weeknd.
I heard. Is this like Childish Gambino?
Well, usually when an artist does something like this, it's because the label owns that name, i.e. Prince. Prince changed his name to a symbol to get out of a label contract.
Sure.
So it's probably that. That'd be my guess. So
I heard he's got a new gig at Tempur-Pedic. Finding people's sleep numbers.
Literally the top salesman in the nation. Like, he literally just, you walk in the door, he's showing you how to use these things.
He's in that red polo, you know,
Boom.
And
Sold.
Mattress stores. That's a whole thing, right?
It's like, I can sell this to you in 26 minutes.
Yeah. There's. Do you know the real reason why? I listened to an episode of Freakonomics years ago about this. Why the mattress stores show up in clusters.
They're all owned by one company, is my guess, just like the glasses industry. And by having them near each other, you go shop around, you think you're getting the best deal, but you're just buying from the same company.
Exactly.
So instead of doing one mega mattress store, they'll do 3 tiny mattress stores in the same region. Yeah.
Because mattresses is one of those items that people only usually buy when they get married or they move. And I guess someone maybe, passes away in their sleep, you're probably going to upgrade that one too. But you don't want a haunted one.
You don't want haunted.
That's the third one they don't really talk about.
You don't want soiled, haunted.
It's implied. It's implied. Why are you getting a new mattress? Well, Grandpa lived a good life. Let's say that.
I had a friend who's, I mean, no disrespect, but I had a friend whose grandmother passed away in her bed and soiled the bed. And the friend to make a few bucks after the death sold the mattress on Facebook because it was practically brand new. They had just bought it. I was like, oh my gosh, you might want to disclose that somebody just passed away in it. Anyway,
no, because then no one will buy it.
Well, either way,
it's only lightly haunted. Lightly haunted
mattress, or you get a new one, and it's like 30% more.
Save $500. It's only lightly haunted. Yeah,
just flip it over. I think there's a lot to talk to The Weeknd about. That's what I'm saying. He seems to be pretty interested in all of this.
Well, we have a great show coming up. We talked to a new artist that we're excited about. His name is Joseph O'Brien. He's been releasing a bunch of singles. You will hear some of his new music and get to know him.
Wouldn't it be funny if Complex for the next 4 cover stories just talk to the artist about napping and sleeping habits, just for no reason? Just that's what we're talking about now.
Well, it's like at the end of Inside the Actor's Studio, like the guy would famously ask the same 5 questions. A lot of podcasts do this too. They'll end a show with the same 5 questions or something. Maybe that's Complex's new thing at the end of every interview.
But is it like, are they just asking about naps or are they asking about general sleep habits?
What are your thoughts on naps? Do you have any tips?
Yeah. Have you read any interesting, I don't know, NASA studies that deal with the topic? We'd love to hear about them.
Okay, before we wrap up, Ariana Grande, just wondering, do you have any nap tips for our readers? Any nap tips?
It's time for our favorite part of the interview, which will comprise of most of it, nap tips. And the clock is running 2 hours now. Let's go.
All right, Channing Tatum, tell us your nap tips. All right, stay tuned. After this break, it's Slices. Okay, it's time for
Slices.
So, Jesse, I just got to let you know, Emily and I prepared for this a little bit. So you're going to do your slice. She's going to bring 3 micro slices. She's going to rapid fire some slices. She doesn't have a full slice. She has a bunch of little slices. So just be prepared for that, just so you know. But we'll start off with you. What do you have?
All right. I'm very excited about this one. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. There is a new viral sensation in Chicago, and it is a beaver who lives in the Chicago River. And, WGN is very excited about this. They've been covering this beaver's presence because I guess there's not a lot of beavers in parts. And people are
like
excited.
in downtown?
Yes.
Okay, but beavers live usually are in creeks and smaller rivers so they can dam it up. The Chicago River is a major thoroughfare with boats all the time. How would what's a beaver doing there?
That's a good question. That's what Urban River, the foundation, wants to know. They've been releasing pictures of this beaver to social media, and Chicagoans are just loving it. It's kind of a little bit of a mystery. They think the beaver might be pregnant. They don't know if they don't know if it's plump or if it's pregnant, about to give birth to a bunch of Chicago.
And you
beavers.
Cannot ask it. You are not allowed to ask it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Good point. You don't want to, that's not going to end well. Fun fact about beavers. I think you're wrong about that, though. I think beavers can be anywhere. When I was a kid one time, where I lived in like a normal suburban neighborhood, right? Not that rural. And it rained for like 2 days straight and the whole neighborhood flooded. Like, I'm talking, you could get canoes out in the street. And what they found was the storm drains that were supposed to drain all the water away to like retention ponds were beaver dams down there. And no one had ever seen a beaver, but the beavers had dammed it all up. So they'll find places to build their dams, even if it's underground.
But you lived on Chesapeake Bay. You live on saltwater.
That's true.
No, what I'm saying, but saltwater, there aren't saltwater beavers.
This was inland a little bit. Still, I don't know where the beavers came from. The beavers are very mysterious. That's why this is a big story, because one showed up in Chicago. But we're bearing the lead here. I'll be honest, no one really cares about the ecology of beavers. We want to talk about funny beaver stuff, okay? People can do their own research. I'm a big supporter of that these days on where beavers do and don't live. But the important part is people in Chicago are getting excited about this beaver. He's making the local news all the time. They got these little cameras set up, and when the beaver makes an appearance, they put a picture up, and it's just very thrilling. And the main thing is they're trying to determine what they should call this beaver. Okay, So they've had like social media posts and a big Reddit thread where people are submitting names. And I think the Urban River Foundation said, a lot of people are weighing in, and they're at some point going to determine what they think is the best one. So I want to read some funny beaver names. Again, trivia
that people suggested, or you're just coming up with them?
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, a couple. I made the. Did you guys watch Chicago Cubs baseball growing up? I made one.
No.
Ryan Sandberg was their big shortstop. He's a Hall of Famer. Ryan Damberg. I put that one in. That's just
It's a good Chicago callback. That's good.
I know.
He's
Ryan
a legend up
Damberg.
there.
Exactly. Ryan Damberg. I kind of like it. Oh, I made one more. This is a little bit of a stretch. Ferris Beavis, not Ferris Bueller. It's a little bit of a stretch, but he's big Chicago.
The potential's there.
Big Chicago callback.
What did the public suggest?
Well, there's Dan Aykroyd. Because he's a Chicago guy. BB McBeaver face. Going back
course.
to Bodie face.
Yeah.
Another Chicago one. Barack O'Beaver. He's proud. Just Beavis.
But if it's pregnant, it can't be a boy's name.
Well, they could go with Sigourney Beaver.
Sigourney Beaver.
That's probably my favorite one. So far.
Well, here's my favorite because it has a Chicago callback. Sufjan Bevins.
Too hipster.
I feel like at this point, everyone knows, even if you're not an indie music fan, you know Chicago by Sufjan. I feel like Sufjan
I think you're stretching that. Think of the Da Bears stereotype, the SNL skit. Those guys have never heard of Sufjan Stevens. You know what I mean?
It's a young generation up there. I'm sure. I think I like Sufjan Stevens the best. I saw a lot.
Dan Aykroyd's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like Sigourney Beaver.
Yeah, well, Barack O'Beaver's good too.
It's a little too serious. Like it would be like beavers are playful and cute.
I feel like we should stay away from any president stuff right now. It's just too hot.
I'm surprised Justin Bieber hasn't been thrown in the mix.
Well, he doesn't have a Chicago tie,
but he has a name that sounds similar.
Yeah, he's
I
probably
don't think Sigourney's from
Lollapalooza.
Chicago, is she?
Is Sigourney Beaver? She's not from
Weaver.
I don't. I think it was just too good of a pun.
Yeah.
Well, then in that case, then Justin fits.
See, Justin. Okay, so when I was in college, one of my friends he caught a beaver one weekend, and we had to watch it.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. I was trying to slip past that. He was like walking down this
like a beaver trap, like an old trapper.
No. The way he tells the story was he was like walking down. There was a bunch of like kind of woods and creeks and stuff in Nacogdoches. He was walking past a creek and he heard a sound one time and he like went to look and there was a little baby beaver. And he swears the beaver came and like ran and jumped into his arms. And so then he was like looking for the family, couldn't find it. So then he called some like beaver rescue center that was like 2 hours away, but they couldn't come until like a day or two later. So we had to watch this beaver, but he had to go into work. So then I got the call to come watch the beaver. So I got to watch a beaver for a few hours and we named him Justin Bieber.
I think it works. So we have to stay tuned. It did make me realize how underrated of an animal beavers are. Like if you're talking,
they're fun,
especially if you're talking. I guess at this age, people don't really have the conversation of what's your favorite animal. But occasionally, if you run out of stuff to talk about, you can go favorite animals. Beavers never make it on that list. I don't care if you're talking to an 8-year-old or talking to an adult. I feel like people don't really think a lot about beavers. But how many animals are out there chewing down trees and making stuff out of it? It's pretty cool, you know?
And the crazy thing, I know everybody's seen this, but like a year or two ago, there was like these viral video going around of this family that fostered a baby beaver and like raised it. And the beaver had never interacted with any other beavers ever. And as it grew up living in the household as a family member, it started damming up the hallways with stuffed animals and stuff that it would pull out of the kids' rooms.
Yeah.
So like it just forced this conversation of nature or nurture thing, you know, like it's never observed anybody damming anything. And it just had this instinct to dam up the hallways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the kids secretly at night were teaching the beaver how to be a beaver. The parents just didn't know.
Well, you never know. They're mysterious and they're underrated. And I'm glad that Sufjan Stevens is giving the spotlight back to a beaver.
The more you say it, the more I really do like Sufjan Stevens.
Sigourney Beaver and Dan Aykroyd are in the front
That's
runners
the thing.
for me.
If it turns out to be
Dan Aykroyd, if it's a boy, Dan Aykroyd, Chicago, Blues Brothers, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, I don't disagree, but Sufjan Stevens is just funny to hear. It's just a funny combination of sounds. And could you imagine the unfortunate night? I don't know what the lifespan of a beaver is, but listen, you know, we're living in the real world here. At some night, some solemn Chicago news anchor is going to have to break the news to the city that our beloved Sufjan Stevens has died. And I'm not wishing
like Lil
harm.
Sebastian.
I'm just saying circle of life here, right? It's going to be funnier to have them read an obituary for Sufjan Stevens.
Dan Aykroyd's pretty good. Plus, Dan Aykroyd, you get the Christian cheat code of you can cuss without cussing.
Oh,
because like when I lived in Nashville, I drove by the J. Percy Priest Dam every day, like if I was on the interstate. And every time I went by, like there's this huge sign. It said J. Percy Priest, and the next line said Dam. And every time I went by, I go, J. Percy Priest, damn, every time. Because as a Christian who doesn't cuss, I thought it was really funny that I could just read the sign. And it sounded dirty.
Or if you're late for work because there's like a backup on the bridge, you could call in and go, "Why are you late? Damn traffic!"
Ah,
no, literally.
That's good. No, literally.
Yeah, damn traffic. Yeah.
Damn traffic. There's a lot of beavers that caused some damn traffic.
It's like that news blooper clip of there was this pig that for some reason lost the use of its hind legs. It's like this little pig. and they made this little wheel contraption where he could use his front legs and wheel around, you know?
Yeah, I've seen it.
And the news anchor, is reading it, and they show a picture. And when they put the pig's name up and he has to read it, he just starts laughing uncontrollably. And they named the pig Chris P. Bacon. And when you see him, he doesn't, when he's reading it, he doesn't realize. But when he says Chris P. Bacon, and you just see the tears welling up, there's nothing better than a funny, cute animal name, especially if it's juxtaposition with somehow he's paralyzed from
Gosh.
like, this is dark, and why are we laughing? That's why I'm not looking forward to the day that Sufjan Stevens dies. I'm just saying, we all aware what happens in nature. I think it's be funny for someone to read the obituary. That's all.
Do we think Sufjan would be like happy with a beaver being named after him?
Sure.
I think he'd be totally indifferent.
He'd put it in his next stage show. He would bring it out. It would be whole themed around beavers.
Like the Lion King, Circle of Life.
All right, Emily, hit us up with your tripled slice.
Yes. Starting off, or like keeping the theme of cute little animals on theme. Did you guys know that there's a radio station out there that is completely controlled by ducks?
I was not aware of this.
Where and how?
So if you go to duckradio.com, this is a real radio station where ducks choose what station plays. They have, there's 6 ducks in a garden somewhere that can change the radio station as they please by pecking a sensor.
It literally says this website is controlled by 6 ducks in my garden. The station changes whenever they peck the sensor.
The last I checked, they were listening to some Spanish pop music. Are you on it right now? What are they listening to?
Are bilingue.
Okay,
they're listening to the new Weekend album, and they're all asleep.
They all fell asleep to it. Last changed 8 minutes ago. Yeah, this is a live feed of the DJ Ducks.
Yeah. Earlier today, they were listening to MSNBC, so I think they were getting their weekend news update.
Yeah, yeah.
But
those left-leaning ducks up there, listen to the counter narrative.
Where are they? Like, where is this coming from?
And that's the thing. The website is so, like, what you're seeing is that's all the information you have, and I need to know, who are these ducks? Where are they? Do they have a preference? Like, I need some data.
Also, why are there 6 ducks in your garden? Like, can't they come and go? Like, ducks, like, move around. They don't stay in a garden unless you've clipped their wings, which is just cruel. And now you're sticking electronics in front of them, making them peck for our amusement. This lady is sadistic.
Don't ruin my slice. This is a funny, happy moment.
Atrium situation,
You don't put ducks in an atrium. You put like
some kind of cage,
parakeets or something.
I assume this person is like leaving food out for them on the sensors, and so they're.
How is it only 6?
Yeah.
How come sometimes it's not like 1 and sometimes it's not like 10?
This is troubling.
Something
Emily.
we need to save these ducks.
Because I have ducks in my backyard because I live on a lake, but they come and go as they please. Like, yes, there's a couple. There's a boy and a girl that love to stay around more often than not. But I wouldn't like put a sensor in front of them and make them program a radio station.
So you think they're changing stations frantically as some sort of cry for help, basically?
MSNBC, they're trying to communicate with MSNBC to get word out. Help!
We're stuck in this duck atrium.
The sadistic person clipped our wings. Ducks aren't meant to live like this. We're not DJs. All
Free
right,
us like beavers.
We want to be beavers too. Hashtag.
We want to be free like the beavers. Just showing up in random cities.
Okay, we all successfully ruined that slice. Try to ruin this one then. Over in England over the weekend, it took an hour-long chase, including the use of a helicopter, before police officers were able to apprehend a teenager who was chasing away on an e-bike.
Okay, say this again. So it was an hour-long chase of a teenager on an e-bike and police officers in their cars?
Yes, in their cars and in a helicopter. It took them an hour to apprehend him. So this was a 17-year-old who was a suspect in a burglary who had been asked to stop. He, on an e-bike, was able to evade police for an hour.
Makes sense.
I feel like depending on the area, there's a lot of alleyways, things like that.
Bridges, dams, you can hide.
Bridges. Yeah. It depends. If it's just, we're talking open road here, like Tour de France style, I don't think you're getting away. Just
pretty
blasting
easy
from one village to the next through vineyards or whatever. But in an urban area, I could see Did the battery die? What caused the chase to come to an end? Do we know?
They were finally able to just get ahead of him and cut him off. I don't know if the helicopter did anything, but they did have to post on their webpage because people were calling in asking why there was a police helicopter over their house in the middle of the night. And their response was, "We apologize if the helicopter woke you up, but we figured you would rather be disturbed in your sleep than be disturbed by a burglar."
Well, that's, yeah. I mean,
I have experienced that in my last house. It was like Cohen was 3 or 4. He was upstairs in his bedroom asleep. And I went to bed in my bedroom's downstairs in the back of the house and had a bunch of windows to the backyard. And I finally am going to bed. It's like 1 o'clock. I turn off my lights and see the police spotlight around my backyard and hear the, like right over my house. And I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. But I'm like asleep. So I'm like, it'll pass. They're just looking for somebody, And next thing I know, and so my bedroom had like a patio door, like a door to the back patio. So the other side of the patio was the kitchen. This side of the patio was my bedroom. And then when I was at the back door, anyway, it's glass. Like the whole door is like glass panels. And like 5 minutes later, I hear screaming and yelling in my backyard. And then the whole house shakes because like somebody is slammed into the glass door of my bedroom. Yeah. Again, the lights are out, right? So I flip on my bedroom lights and there is a man with his face pressed up against the glass getting arrested on my back patio. And apparently there was a robbery a couple streets over and he jumped my fence and was hiding on my back patio behind the sofa. Like when I went to sleep, he was there behind the sofa and dogs found him. Like the police entered my backyard because of the helicopter and then found him and arrested him. That was an interesting evening.
I would have, if I were him, like just kick my feet up on a lounge chair and pull up my phone and act like I'm reading. So it's like,
it's just,
like
I'm just a guy.
I'm just here.
Just hanging. House
in my backyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that was creepy. But yeah, I can understand if there's police helicopters going around a neighborhood in the middle of the night, people are going to call in and say what's going on. But
yeah, what's pretty impressive on an e-bike. I stay away from e-vehicles these days. I had a bad experience.
What happened?
It was New Year's Day. And
like 2 months ago?
Yes. And I was in an urban area with lots of Lime scooters. And I rented some to go ride with my kids. And I reached to the handle. Remember, mind you, it's New Year's Day. So these were in heavy use the night before. And I reached the handle to turn it on and put my hand in what appeared to be puke on the handles because some reveler had dropped it off and evidently had a little too much fun New Year's Eve. And I grabbed it first thing New Year's morning. I'm not doing public stuff like that anymore. I'm not doing public e-vehicles.
Just bring those little plastic gloves that they use at the Chipotle and stuff.
Even then, I'm done with them. It was such a horrific experience that I've decided no more public e-vehicles. I don't know if this guy was riding one of those Limes, but
wait, what did you do after that? Like, did you just what did you do for the rest of the day?
I almost threw up on top of his throw up on the Lime, and then I found a public restroom and thoroughly washed my hands in scalding hot water.
All right, Emily, what's your last one?
Last one. In other police-related news, over in Ontario, Canada, a man was charged with various crimes related to damage in a motel room and a quote breakfast sandwich that he allegedly threw at a police officer after being taken into custody. So what happened was this man, while he was after he'd been arrested, while he was in custody, they gave him a breakfast sandwich to eat for the morning. Mm-hmm. And when an officer entered the cell to speak with him, the sandwich was then thrown at the officer. So on top of the charges he was already facing, he had to add assaulting an officer.
What did he think was going to happen by throwing a sandwich at an officer? Also, how did this make the news?
Also, why would you waste a perfectly good breakfast sandwich?
This is can I guess what city this happened in?
Sure.
Because apparently it's incredibly slow news days up there this time of year. Chicago. The biggest story in town is a single beaver showed up.
Well, during the winter, everybody kind of shuts down.
I was like, this was in Canada, so it's definitely frozen up there.
Yeah,
there's literally nothing going on because nobody wants to be outside in negative 20-degree air. So there's like, oh, somebody threw a sandwich at an officer? Write it up. Front page.
Beaver's in town? What?
And that's why I did 3 mini slices, because there's a lot of little weird, quote unquote, news
There's literally nothing else going on in the world right now. Thankfully, there's a dearth of newsworthy events, and we all can just sleep soundly knowing that the world is tumbling forward with minor disturbances to major political or social systems, and we can just relish the small little news stories, right?
Well, see, that was our hope, is like people have heard enough of those stories. You come here for the stories you haven't heard,
Yeah.
And that is the rest of the story.
That's right.
Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com every day, where we are covering stuff a little bit more substantive than that. All right. That'll do it for Slices. Stay tuned. Up next, it's Joseph O'Brien.
Don't forget duckradio.com. That one really is something you should bookmark.
They haven't updated in 17 minutes. They're still listening to our bilingue, so
maybe they're not okay.
I fear something may have happened to the ducks.
Yeah, they're unresponsive now. Or they really love our bilingue, whatever that is.
Or it's siesta time, 26 minutes. The clock is running.
Oh, yeah, they put on.
They read the big complex cover story, and they're trying this astronaut nap thing out.
The ducks heard about it on MSNBC this morning, and then that's how they're.
Yeah,
that's it. This episode of the Relevant Podcast is brought to you by the Every Woman's Prayer Journal from Tyndale House Publishers. Living a life of extraordinary purpose starts with extraordinary prayer. The Every Woman's Prayer Journal is designed to add depth and intentionality to your prayer and Bible study, guiding you through scripture-inspired journaling sessions of praise, confession, thanksgiving, and requests. With 100 prayer sessions rooted in God's Word, it's the perfect companion to the Every Woman's Bible. Order your copy of the Every Woman's Prayer Journal today. It releases March 18th, and right now, you can save 25% by ordering your copy at Tyndale.com. Well, our guest today is Joseph O'Brien. He's a rising Christian artist who started out on America's Got Talent before signing with Goatee Records. He's been putting out a bunch of singles. You can go look him up on Apple and Spotify. And got a lot of music out recently. He's releasing more music this year. So we caught up with him to hear more about his musical journey, where he got his influence from, and most importantly, yes, Emily asked him about his stance on nap culture. Here's our conversation with Joseph O'Brien.
It's something different. It's something different. It's something different. It's something different. When my existence isn't living for myself.
Well, first things first, on our show earlier, we were talking about naps and nap culture. So I have to know where you stand. What is your stance on naps?
I'm okay. There's two parts of me. One part of me is I've never been a nap taker. I just don't believe that they actually really help. I feel like anytime I wake up from a nap, like I'm just way more tired than I was before. But I've literally been reading this book that like says naps are so important just to be well rested. But I try to get as much sleep as I can. So I shoot for like 8 hours of sleep so I don't need a nap. But there are days where, if I'm traveling and I only got 4 or 5 hours of sleep because of flights or something, like that's the only time I'll deem a nap acceptable. So it does happen, but it's pretty rare to catch me napping.
Okay, so it's safe to say that you're anti-nap.
I'm a little bit on the anti-nap culture. I hate to say it, but I'm not a big fan.
Now that we've got that out of the way, we can go a little bit deeper, I guess. A lot of people know you from your time on America's Got Talent, but I want to know, when did you decide you were going to pursue music full time?
I grew up in a musical household. My dad was a full-time musician. He was a part of a band called New Song, which I don't know if you've heard of New Song. Arise, my love, or Sir, I want to buy these shoes. So I grew up with him, like just being in the Christian music industry, and I just loved what he did. I think I always gravitated towards performance. Like when I was in elementary school, I loved theater and I loved to just like be in choir, be on stage. So I definitely loved to be like the center of attention, I guess. But I think it was around like 11 that I started playing piano and just started like kind of tinkering with writing my own music. And it just was so life-giving. And I was writing Christian songs from even the moment that I wanted to write songs. So, really the desire for music has always been there. I just didn't know if it was going to be the main ordeal because I also loved tennis growing up. So I didn't know if I was going to be like a tennis pro or if I was going to like try to pursue music. So those things were kind of competing for a while, and music just won out because I just found myself practicing 3 hours a day and I didn't really want to do the same thing for tennis.
Show me how to hold on, slow down. Don't gotta get what I want right now.
Well, like I said, you then auditioned for America's Got Talent, made it to the semifinals before you left. And then the next thing we know, you're signed to Goatee Records. How did that happen?
I think it was 2018 is actually when I was on the show. Honestly, nothing happened. I had kind of pursued the music thing a little bit after the show, but God didn't really open up any doors for me to sign anywhere. And so I guess I was like, well, I'm going to go back to college and finish out my degree. And it was pretty random. I was working on a song, and then I had someone who was a part of Toby Mac's band, and he mixed the song. And so then he sent it to Toby, and then Toby was like, we want a conversation. And so technically I started talking with Goatee in July of 2020 or something like that. And I'd already done a little bit of the searching game for like a label. And I kind of was really cynical about it. I said, sure, I'll talk with them, but nothing's going to happen. And they were just very like forefront about how much they wanted me to sign with them. Like it was not, I didn't have to earn anything from them. They heard my music and they just believed in what type of sound I guess I would have one day. And again, they saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself at the time. And they ended up taking a risk and still trying to pay it off, you know, still make sure that like, they're like, oh yeah, no, he's doing a good job. So, you know.
You mentioned that they loved your sound, and you do have a really fun sound. Where are you finding inspiration these days?
Yeah, for a while. So the thing about like Christian music sometimes is we kind of have like a little bit of the Christian alternative of like a secular artist. And, you know, I would make videos about that too, just pointing it out. And everyone saw me as like Christian Lauv and Christian Laney. Like that was my lane. And they were my biggest inspirations from 2020 to like 2022. But I've kind of always been like all over the map. My favorite band of all time is Coldplay. Like I just love Coldplay. But also my favorite Christian band of all time is Relient K. And so like signing with Goatee Records, who like literally was the label that they were under, was probably one of the coolest things, just being a part of the same label that Relient K was under. But I just, I loved a lot of different stuff, but I was a pop punk, like I was a Christian pop punk kid through and through. So I listened to all that stuff. Owl City, I was a big Owl City fan. So I've had a lot of inspirations, but I would say currently I listen to a lot of like, I'm not gonna say rock, but I just love pop music. So pop music through and through, anything pop, anything hooky, catchy. But I had a little bit of an identity crisis recently because bedroom pop is just not the sound anymore, like Lauv and Laney. And so I had to try to figure out like where I was going to go with, you know, new music and such.
And there's nothing to show for it. I'm so lost when I'm searching camouflage.
And what did you decide?
So yeah, we're working on an album actually right now that we're going to be releasing this year. Like that's the plan. And it's kind of rock. Like it's a lot of real drums, electric guitars, but like pop infused elements. So it's just really organic for me, which is kind of weird, but it's feeling really natural and it's feeling really authentic to who I am as a writer, and kind of, I don't know, like I really feel like I've been able to find my sound, which has been great. And I'm not just trying to like write stuff that's conformed to what other people think I should be, you know? But yeah, so I'm pumped.
I'd like to dig into that because you've released, you know, what we would call both horizontal and vertical songs. And I know you've gotten some pushback from people online about that. So I want to ask, why do you want to do both? Why not just pick one lane?
I think like it's just important that being a Christian like means having a biblical worldview. It's like there's so many things like in life that don't really maybe line up particularly with what, like, I'm not going to say scripture says, but there's just Christians can experience a range of emotions, and not all of them are directed towards something like super explicitly like spiritual. But we can all point it back to like things that are spiritual. So, you know, when you're in a relationship and the joys that come in a relationship, it's like that can be pointed to God, but like at the same time, there's still like the humanity of it. So I don't know. I actually weirdly, I feel like I'm going to backtrack a bit because I do love artists who do horizontal more music rather than vertical, but kind of recently have actually been diving more into the vertical and just writing songs that are super explicitly Christian, because I know that's what helps people get through a really tough time sometimes, to be able to hear truth packaged in a way that's relatable and authentic, but also super scriptural at the same time. So I've actually been diving more into the vertical, and I know a lot of people thought I was going to go more horizontal with my new music, but I'd say actually people are probably about to be super surprised by how Christian my music is going to sound. But I wanted it to be like cool, like super, super cool, vibey Christian music. And it's not like worship, if that makes any sense. It's definitely pop. But yeah, like, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
I couldn't climb my way up. I couldn't change who I was. You found me lost a bit.
All right, knowing that, I can see why you were into those Christian pop punk bands that you mentioned earlier. I'm curious, who's your top 5 Christian pop punk bands of all time?
Oh, this is the best question ever. You just made me smile so big. Oh my word. I mean, you got to put Relient K at 1. I'll probably go Switchfoot 2. Soft 2. Like, I got to think through all the ones here. Probably Hawk Nelson after that. So we got Relient K, Switchfoot, Hawk Nelson. Give me Stellar Cart at 4. Like, I loved me. They were sleepers. Stellar Cart for sure. And then I'm trying to think of other particular bands. What am I missing? Do you know what I'm missing right now? FM Static. I guess you could say like Family Force 5, kind of. Like, they had a little bit of that stuff. Maybe someone like, I didn't listen to a lot of Skillet because they were a little bit more hard rock, but they also aren't like metal. So I would say I'd put like Skillet at 5. I love all of them, but Relient K, Switchfoot, and Stellar Cart, golly, and Hawk Nelson, I just loved them. Like, I listened to Hawk Nelson today in my car. It was ridiculous.
That's why they count against it.
That was Joseph O'Brien. Make sure to check out his music on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you find your music these days. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's your feedback. This episode is brought to you by Josh Nadeau's new book, Room for Good Things to Run Wild: How Ordinary People Become Everyday Saints. Have you felt stuck in your faith? And no matter how many new things you try, you still end up with a dissatisfying Christian life? We invite you to rediscover beauty and wonder in the holy ordinary with the new book, Room for Good Things to Run Wild. Josh Nadeau is the artist behind Sword and Pencil, and through rich storytelling, liturgies, and artwork, you'll discover a way to move beyond trite platitudes to an embodied theology that transforms your whole life. Join Josh on a pilgrimage to rediscover the rich and wild world that God's created for you and the way He's created you to experience it. Start the journey today. Room for Good Things to Run Wild is now available in print, ebook, and audiobook formats wherever books are sold. Okay, it's time for your feedback. Last week we got talking about kind of like fourth grade memories, and Emily was telling us about her fourth grade field trips to Cece's Pizza, the wonderful education system there in Texas, and also her mother's friend getting stampeded by a buffalo. So anyway, got us thinking about field trips. So we asked you what your wildest or most memorable field trip was. You hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast, and here's a few of our favorites.
On a side note, the way you summarized the buffalo trip, for anyone listening to this who hadn't heard the story, the mom is fine. She lived. That stampeded by a
barely.
She succumbed to the buffalo injuries.
She was forever changed, but she did
sold
live.
her mattress that afternoon.
Only lightly haunted. It's brand new, lightly haunted.
Yeah, you're saving a few bucks here. Not sure if this counts. Well, it certainly does. But my Girl Scout troop went to a police station once. It wasn't initially terrible, but they locked us in a cell and took pictures while the cell next to us actually had a lady that was arrested earlier. We heard a lot of curse words that day. I like that they took the Girl Scouts on like a little scared straight expedition, Hopefully no one got a sandwich thrown at them.
Did you see Cassie and Morris had almost a space camp situation, Jesse?
Let's hear it.
My fourth grade class in Indiana went to a NASA space simulation facility. We were all in different teams that had different jobs like medic, ground control, etc., which we know that's valid. Checks out. We learned each group's job duties. And at the end, we all had to put a set of numbers in the computer to save our crew's lives. I read the wrong numbers on the wrong page and almost unalived my whole crew. What I love about this story is this poor girl, was so traumatized in that moment of being embarrassed in front of the whole, 20 years later, still total recall about how horrible she felt in that moment,
Or you could just punch a bunch of numbers in at random and look back and laugh while your crew looks in horror because it's not real and it's camp and it's supposed to be fun, not stressful. because that's how I felt about it.
For those who don't know what he's talking about, Jesse and I went to space camp as adults a few years ago, and he did not take it seriously, much to the chagrin of the adults at the camp who were taking it seriously.
After I demanded to be the leader.
The captain. Literally, we're like, we all just got there. I'm not going to belabor the stories, but we all just got there. And like literally nobody knows anybody, but me and Jesse know each other, obviously. And there's a briefing of like kind of like laying out what's going to happen over the next couple of days. And he's like, okay, well, before I assign roles, is there anybody who wants to volunteer to be the captain? And before he even finished the word captain, Jesse raises his hands and said, I will lead us. And all these people who really wanted to be the captain they couldn't get out fast enough. And the guy's like, okay, you're the captain. The worst captain in space camp history, ladies and gentlemen.
We're the best, depending on how you look at it and how amused you are by irritating space camp employees. Because if that's the kind of thing that you find fun, it was the best day ever.
I don't think I realized that it was days. For some reason, I always thought space camp y'all were just there for like a day trip.
It was 2 days. It was an overnight.
Cameron wanted to like make the days last longer by doing extra activities.
There was a bonus opportunity after the first day that in the evening, if you wanted to, you could do they had the weightless spacewalk simulators, and we did that and all that. But they had the actual water tank where you go down and scuba dive to like then do like the way the astronauts actually train. Is not in the weightless simulator. It's like in the tank. And like you could don the suit and go in the tank and do all the stuff. And it was like after dinner, come back. And Jesse and I are at dinner and he's like, I don't want to go back. And I was like, but it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to be in the NASA tank. He's like, you can go back. I ain't going back. So we went to a movie. So
yeah.
What movie did you see?
It's like a space movie, wasn't it?
I think it was First Man.
First Man, yeah. We thought, well, this fits.
Well, we were out quite late the night before. And
that is true.
It was a fun trip, but okay. One
not because
guy,
of space camp.
Yeah. Carter. I remember the other thing too. I remember about that is we did this tour of to see all this cool space stuff from the Apollo missions, and the guy had like been active on the Apollo missions. And,
he was one of the rocket
old.
Scientists who built Apollo. He was like 90 years old, giving us a tour of the rocket he helped build.
And
it was awesome.
I think this was like 2016, 17, 18-ish, a wild time. And I remember he was like, all right, you can ask me anything now. I remember I asked him, so what do you think of Space Force? And he just stared blankly at the horizon and just demanded the next question.
I can vouch. Like there was other people asking like really serious questions, like technical questions and like about, astrophysics and aeronautic engineering and breakthroughs and how quickly they did this. And it was unprecedented technological advances and like all the things that have changed our world and life today, they invented while doing the Apollo program in the 60s. And so he was really engaged because he didn't do this very often. He was very old. It was a special thing for him to come out. And so like it was a thoughtful intellectual conversation about his contributions to American society. And then Jesse asked, what do you think of Space Force? And the guy just deflated.
It's a legit question. Still curious. We haven't really heard a lot about them, by the way. That was like almost 10 years ago now, and we don't know what they're doing. I'm adjacent to a lot of military people. I live the Spanish family had me over. He's going back to Spain. He's going to be a naval commander for the Spanish military's part of NATO or whatever. I haven't met one person in Space Force. I don't know anyone that knows someone in Space Force.
Well, you're in a Navy area. I think.
No, I mean Army too.
Well, regardless, so I think Space Force is primarily in Houston, Huntsville, Canaveral, Cape Canaveral. Like I think they're where there's space stuff. You don't have space stuff there.
I see recruitment videos.
Their headquarters are in Virginia.
Yeah, I see recruitment videos for all the other branches on TV. The few, the proud, the Marines, Army has always got stuff, before movies and trailers, and you see the Navy commercials. I've never seen one Space Force recruitment
you would think that Space Force would be easy to recruit. It'd be like the cool one. Like you could like.
Well, I don't know. I think if you saw the season of Space Force they did on Netflix with Steve Carell, you'd be like, it's kind of lame.
That's a terrible show.
Yeah.
I had high hopes.
I did too.
I'm just very curious. I still want to know that old man's thought on Space Force because
he's probably dead now.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, he was like 97, 8 years ago. The odds are hey, just go check Craigslist in that area and see if there's any lightly haunted mattresses for sale. And we'll know. Lightly haunted astronaut mattress. Perfect for napping.
We can confirm that he either divorced, moved, or sadly passed on to the great Space Force in the sky.
All right. Are there any more?
Jessica Carlson said, my class took a field trip to Winn-Dixie, a grocery store, when I was in first grade back in the 90s. They gave us pizza, so it wasn't that bad, but still it was like, why?
I'll tell you why. Because the teacher forgot to go to the grocery store, and the teacher's like, wife was like, hey, did you get all those groceries I asked you to get? And he's like, field trip, guys. Sorry, we're going to Winn-Dixie.
Sammy Goes said, my school took us to a field trip to dig up potatoes in the second grade. I still have no idea why. That reminds me of Parks and Rec or what show was it? The science teacher? No. It was a New Girl, where the really bad checked out science teacher put us thing in for field trip. And it turned out it was just, he wanted the kids to come out to his property and clean it up for him. So it was his science field trip. Yeah.
Yeah. They confiscated the potatoes after. So
I was going to say, I want to know if you got to
potatoes.
keep the potato.
Probably not.
This one, I question a lot of things about it, but one guy ruined our trip to SeaWorld because he punched a dolphin. It was in the petting tank. Kid just hauled off and punched a dolphin. School was banned.
I mean, that feels like something young Jesse Carey would have done, dude.
I'm not going to assault an animal. I mean,
you're not throwing a breakfast sandwich at it. Yeah.
I mean, I would do something playful with it, but I'm not going to. I mean, if it attacked me, I would figure out how to defend myself, but I'm not going to just randomly assault an animal.
Yeah, that's horrible.
You know? Yeah.
That kid is definitely in jail right now.
Oh yeah, he's he's throwing sandwiches at officers all the time.
The signs were there. How did you first know your kid was going to be a truant? Well, there was a SeaWorld field trip one day. He was in second grade. All right. Well, there's more where that came from. If you want to read them, go check them out. All right. It's time for this week's
editorial question of the week.
All right. Well, earlier we were talking about like people being freaked out that there was like helicopters in their neighborhoods in the middle of the night. And so, guys thinking about like fears. So we want to know this is totally a stretch. We want to know your most unfounded or irrational fear. Everybody has one, just that thing. You don't like it.
Mine is now using publicly available e-vehicles for obvious reasons.
Dude, that one isn't irrational though.
Yeah, that's not irrational.
Yeah, well, yeah, hey, true. Well, either way, I'm done with that experience. But yeah, never, always afraid of here's the reason I'm not afraid of beavers, because I'm afraid of most rodents, like terrified, even though I know they're very small and can't really hurt me. And I think it's the fleshy tails that have always just, I can't deal with it. Maybe that's why I like beavers, because they have that big waffle tail,
I love a good rodent. I know they're like really gross, but
no.
Wait, you love rodents?
I had like hamsters growing up, and like, I don't know, they just don't freak me out.
You would love my neighborhood. There's rats and squirrels everywhere.
Yeah, I don't deal with those, So I want to hear other people's irrational fear to make me not feel as much of an outsider, because of just the thought of a rodent causes my blood pressure to rise, and I won't go near an e-vehicle without a hazmat suit now. So,
what if you saw a rodent on an e-bike? Like, what would you do?
Especially one that's nauseous. That would be
a
terrible.
Nauseous rat just sitting on an e-bike. Jesse, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. I'm just saying.
Well,
we need to get in the word.
I'm not saying these are good things. I'm just saying the other one, big haunted mattress guy. Don't do used mattress, because I don't know what happened, what transpired on that mattress. I'll just go with the new one, Little
update, 34 minutes later, Arbalinge still. The Ducks are just jamming out to Arbalinge. I don't know what that is, but 34 minutes. They weren't even listening to MSNBC that long.
No, They turned it off quickly.
They're blasting through this astronaut nap.
They've missed their window.
They're heading toward a Cameron Strang nap in this situation.
Yeah.
They've turned the corner. It's tough. Yeah. Once you miss that off ramp, I mean, you're in for the day. I mean, you're down.
The day's over.
Yeah. All right. Well, hit us up on X at Relevant Podcast. Tell us your irrational fear and maybe your origin story of why it's your irrational fear. Like Jesse has a clear origin story for his e-bike fear. So tell us your origin story as well. We'll read our favorites on next week's show. Many thanks to Joseph O'Brien for joining us today. Make sure to check out his music on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. I'm an Apple Music guy. It's lossless. It sounds better. I know you playlist people or Spotify people, but you know, he's on all of them. Go check him out and be watching out for his new music coming up this year. Also, make sure to check out issue 116 of Relevant. We have Nate Bargatze on the cover, Connor Price, Jackie O'Perry, Aiden King, Gallant, and a lot more. You can read it for free. Just click the magazine tab right there at relevantmagazine.com. You know, share the content. It's pretty good. Your friends might like it. Put it in your story. Help us out. Help them out. Maybe they find Jesus. Look at that. Win-win. All right, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Gary.
I'm Emily Brown.
All right, we'll see you on Friday. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
I support any napping culture.
Relevant Podcast Network.